Hey there, this is John.
And I'm Josh.
And we are up to the championship week of the 2021 college football season. It is upon us this coming weekend. So, let's jump in there.
All right.
We're going to go by conference, the conference games and championships that are being held. Conference USA, that's going to be Western Kentucky versus no longer ranked UTSA.
Kind of disappointing end of the season for UTSA for sure, considering that they lost to North Texas kind of out of nowhere, right?
Yeah.
Either way, this is a good chance for them to set the end of their season right and finish, what would it be, 12-1, 11-1? That's a great record, right?
It is.
And going into next season, if they're wanting any momentum, I think this is going to be an important game for them to win as well. So
Agreed.
So we'll see what happens. I don't know too much about Western Kentucky, but who knows?
And that's a Friday night game as well as the next one, the Pac-12 championship, and that's going to be number 10 Oregon facing number 17 Utah.
All right, this is what I have to say.
What do you got to say?
I said it before, and I'll say it again. It is so difficult to beat the same team twice. So difficult.
Yeah.
Utah spanked Oregon in their first matchup a couple weeks ago. It wasn't even that long ago in this season. Sort
of derailed Oregon's season.
Oregon was kind of in the playoff run, right? Actually, I believe they were top 4 before that loss. Can Utah beat Oregon twice? I'm not sure. It was such a dominant performance the first time around that I like if it was a close game, I mimight be like, oh, Oregon will probably win this one. But Utah dominated so badly. Yeah. I mean, it was just an ugly game on Oregon's half. So I'm thinking maybe Utah can knock them off again, even though it's a repeat.
It's hard to do these repeat games. Don't even, I don't relish the, if I was on one of those teams, be like, oh, got to do this again. It's just not fun.
And I mean, Oregon has a lot to be planned for here. They have to feel pretty humiliated after the first loss. So we'll see.
Big 12, number 9 Baylor is going to be at number 5 Oklahoma State. So Oklahoma State's found their way to number 5.
Yeah, this is actually only one of 2 conference matchups that features 2 top 10 teams.
Yeah,
which is kind of crazy.
Good point.
Oklahoma State
kind of crazy. It is the Big 12.
Yeah, I know. Oklahoma State right outside the cuff of the 4-team playoffs.
Yep. And Georgia, Alabama. I mean, the only way that those 2 teams stay in there is if Alabama beats Georgia.
So we'll get to that in a second. So here's what I'm thinking. For Oklahoma State, I genuinely believe if they can dominate Baylor here, there is a chance that they jump above Cincinnati. Ooh. I do think that.
Okay.
And honestly, I think that they should. Just based off Cincinnati's strength of schedule alone, you can't base Cincinnati's entire year off of that one win against Notre Dame.
But Oklahoma State first has to beat Baylor,
who they've already beat early in the season.
They did.
By 7.
Yeah.
Pretty close game, but it was so long ago.
This is like very different than the Oregon-Utah one that we were talking about. Yeah.
I'm impressed with Oklahoma State.
Matchup.
They've shown some grit. They just beat Oklahoma in a great game.
They did.
This is one of I think this is one of the most interesting games of them all. Just because of the actual playoff contentions that it has and the potential for Baylor to upset Oklahoma State is definitely there. Yeah. So,
good point.
Who knows?
The MAC, 2 unranked teams, Kent State versus Northern Illinois.
Nick Saban's alma mater versus Northern Illinois, who we've seen have some decent seasons in the past.
Yeah,
right?
we have. You're right.
So I'm not sure. I'm going to just go ahead and say Northern Illinois wins this one because I think they're traditionally better than Kent State, but it's nice seeing both of these programs do decent this year.
Yeah, true. Mountain West, you have an unranked Utah State. They're going to be facing number 19 San Diego State.
Utah State's probably the least deserving team to make it into the conference championship, and really, it's a miracle that they did in the first place. I think San Diego State spanks them around the field and dominates this one in a number 19 style fashion.
Yeah,
so
it very well could be the case for that one.
Also, friendly reminder, it's kind of crazy, but just bear with me here. Okay. If San Diego State beats Utah State, and Houston beats Cincinnati, which we'll talk about in a second, San Diego State gets the New Year's 6 game.
Ooh.
Because they will be the top-ranked conference champion of the group of 5 teams.
Yeah.
Wow.
Wow is right.
Yeah.
The Sun Belt, App State, who had that disappointing loss in their season. They're facing number 24 Louisiana, who has been playing some really good ball this year.
I actually think App State wins this one.
Really?
So
okay.
especially here at the end of the season, App State had
that's
2 losses early on
right there, Josh.
that were kind of disappointing. But App State this season, at the end of this season, has just looked like an extremely solid team. And Louisiana just lost their head coach. So, I think Louisiana's going to... They're a good team, but I mean, I think a lot of that had to do with their head coach, right? He's gone now, and that's tough. And App State,
at this point, they're still the same team.
They are, but
same
coaching
schemes.
matters, man.
It does.
And App State, I don't know. They have everything riding on them. A win here would set them up really well for next season, potentially even ranked. So we'll see what happens.
SEC championship in Atlanta, number 1 Georgia, basically at home. They're going to be facing number 3 Alabama.
Here's a friendly reminder: Jimbo Fisher is the only head coach to ever beat Saban, who was on Saban's staff.
Yeah.
Kirby Smart, never done it before, guys, ever. Now, obviously, this is the year that things don't go in Alabama's favor.
Yeah.
Because
this year, Georgia is definitely heavily favored to beat Alabama.
It's actually only 6 points, which is crazy.
Yeah.
I do think that Georgia wins. And honestly, it could be a blowout. It could be like a 48-0 thing, like they do to every other team. But I do think that if you count Alabama out, or if Georgia tries to count Alabama out, then they're fools. Nick Saban knows what he's doing. This team has the talent, right? It's not like these are 2 3-star players.
Yeah.
Every single kid on this team, it was highly scouted, wanted, and are some of the best players in the country.
Talent's there.
So if Alabama can play their cards right and have a really good game and protect Bryce Young, because defensively they'll be able to at least compete.
And that's where their weakness is.
Yeah.
It's not protecting Bryce
Young. It's that
Young.
offensive line right now that my biggest concern is, because if Auburn abused Alabama's offensive line as badly as they did, Georgia makes Auburn's defensive line. Sorry, Auburn's defensive line abused Alabama like they did. Georgia's defensive line makes Auburn look like a bunch of amateurs.
Yeah.
This defensive line is scary good.
In my mind, what Alabama has going for them, not their offensive line, but their defense. I mean, honestly, in the Iron Bowl, they did a pretty good job of completely stymieing Auburn and not allowing them to get much at all. And so if they can step up and keep Georgia at bay, keep Georgia from scoring big, then there is that fighting chance, but that's still pretty unlikely in my book.
Okay.
Yeah. The AAC, you got number 21 Houston. You mentioned this earlier, at number 4 Cincinnati. So this one's actually basically a home game for Cincinnati. And what do you think is going to happen here? Does Houston have what it takes?
So Houston's only loss was early on in the season to Texas Tech. Kind of seems like a fluke later on at this point in the season. Kind of seems like maybe they, I don't know. I don't know how they slipped that one up, but it happened. Number 4 Cincinnati, undefeated. Here's my issue with Cincinnati. They just kind of seemed very lackluster to me in a number of games here at the end of the season, barely competing with some teams that they should have blown out of the water, right?
Yeah.
If you just pay attention to some of their games, was only won like 7 points or was really close going to the fourth quarter. So I think there's a chance that Houston actually exposes Cincinnati and wins this game. Now Cincinnati has a lot that they're playing for. The first ever Group of 5 team to make it to the playoffs. It would be a huge deal and a milestone for Group of 5 teams in general. So I'm not sure what's going to happen, but this game has a lot of implications for it.
Sure does.
Yeah.
Sure does. One that Cincinnati better show up for, or they could definitely get beat by Houston. Big Ten, you got number 2 Michigan. Number 2 Michigan. Wow. And they're going to be playing number 13 Iowa. And so, again, I mean, what is it about Iowa? They've stuck around. They've made it to the Big Ten championship game, and yet, just not super impressive overall. But they've obviously got the wins.
I think
to make it to number 13.
I think that Michigan exposes Iowa again. So this will be the second or third time Iowa's been exposed this season. Here's why I think it's a bad matchup for Iowa. Iowa's strength is their defense, but I don't think Iowa's defensive line is going to be good enough to get past Michigan's offensive line after watching that game against Ohio State.
Yeah.
Iowa's weakness is their offense. Michigan's defense is about to feast on Iowa's offense. Feast. I think this could be a 42-17 type game. Michigan wins.
Okay. And we'll retain that
And
number
somehow
2
makes
spot
it
there.
to the playoffs. Yeah.
Yeah.
Crazy.
ACC, you got number 15 Pittsburgh. They're going to be at number 16 Wake Forest.
This is probably the most disappointing Power 5 conference championship game.
Yeah.
I mean, if you go back through all these other conferences, you start with the Pac-12. At least Oregon's top 10. Okay, it's second most. 2 disappointing Power 5 conferences. Pac-12, no chance, no
They've
implication.
been disappointing for a long
It doesn't
time.
really
though.
matter, right? If Utah wins, you're going to have a barely top 10 team making it into a New Year's Six Bowl. Same for the ACC, right? Number 15, number 16. Even if one of these teams wins, they're not jumping into the top 10.
No.
You're not even going to have a top 10 team inside a New Year's Six Bowl.
Yes.
So both of these just very disappointing matchups with no playoff implications at all.
Yeah.
That being said, Wake Forest, we just learned, extremely young team.
They are
Extremely young.
Absolutely.
Pittsburgh has a Heisman candidate quarterback and has honestly impressed me many times this year. Both of these teams should be proud of what they've accomplished this year.
True.
They really should. I'm bashing them for being 15-16, but
Well,
the fact
bashing
that,
the ACC.
Yeah, I'm bashing the ACC as a whole. These two teams, I never would have expected it from them, and they should both be proud of what they've done to get to this point. And I think both of these teams are going to play their hearts out to win this game. It would be I would love to see statistically when the last time either of them won the ACC was. So good for both of them. I honestly don't know what's going to happen, which makes it somewhat intriguing to me.
Yeah, you're right. Okay, that's week 14, championship week. Join us when we do the review of how things went.